Unfortunately, Sand Creek seemed to bring out the worst of human beings. Around 200 Cheyenne and Arapaho people, primarily women and children, were killed. I think we all have to take responsibility for how we reach a point of understanding what happened at Sand Creek.
On November 29, 1864, a regiment of volunteer cavalrymen led by Colonel John M. Shivington attacked a peaceful encampment of Indians on the eastern Colorado Prairie. What followed was one of the darkest chapters in American military history.
My great-grandmother on my mother's side was at Sand Creek. She had been so frightened and so fearful of what happened at Sand Creek that she never went to bed without her moccasins on from 1864 until she passed away in 1938, some 74 years. She always felt that she needed to be prepared and take some precautions in case there was another Sand Creek.
This month, Native American descendants of the Sand Creek Massacre are gathering in Denver to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the event. Organizations with ties to the Colorado establishment of that time have been working with historians to investigate their culpability in the affair. And in my own small way, that's what I'm trying to do. My great-great-grandfather, William M. Allen, was also on the killing field that day, as a private in the 3rd Colorado Cavalry Regiment. For more than a year, I've been trying to discover exactly what he did there. A trip to the National Archives confirmed that he was a member of the 3rd Cavalry and had been at Sand Creek on the day of the massacre. I already knew that he brought back an Indian scalp from Sand Creek, and another artifact from that day sat on my dad's dresser for decades, a tarnished silver amulet in the shape of a bird. A note signed by one of my ancestors' daughters described it as taken by the late William Allen from the body of an Indian killed in the Battle of Sand Creek. But I wanted to know more. Eventually, my search led me to Jeff Campbell, a retired criminal investigator who now works for the National Park Service. He agreed to walk me through the events of Sand Creek.
What happened here was the unwarranted, if you will, massacre or wanton killing of men, women, children, elderly in a village that had established itself within the bounds of the reservation that had been set aside for them.
By the summer of 1864, tensions between Indians and white settlers were on the rise.
There had been a few attacks where individuals were killed and so forth, mainly whites. But the feeling in Denver was that there was this threat. So the paranoia was rampant and weird.
In response, Governor Evans called for volunteers to join the newly formed 3rd Colorado Cavalry Regiment. My great-great-grandfather was among the first to enlist.
They had little time for training. Supplies were limited. Some of them hadn't been given overcoats, so the cold weather setting in, morale was starting to take a real dive in the 3rd Regiment.
Meantime, Governor Evans had reassured Cheyenne and Arapaho leaders that their people would be safe if they turned themselves in to military authorities in eastern Colorado. They were told to make camp at Sand Creek. The top military official, Colonel Shivington, had other ideas. Eager to build upon his fame as a Civil War hero, Shivington decided to launch an attack, employing the hastily assembled 3rd Regiment.
The night of November 28, 1864, about 675 troops depart from Fort Lyon at about 8 o'clock in the evening. And many of the soldiers that were here at Sand Creek said that they didn't actually know what the objective was when they left Fort Lyon.
The night before the attack, even the young people were out playing their usual games, and they went to bed and never dreaming that there was going to be that surprise dawn attack that next morning.
The soldiers arrived at the edge of the village. It was probably somewhere around 10-15 minutes before 6 o'clock in the morning. What happens next all happens very quickly. Black Kettle stands in the water, White Antelope, some others, Left Hand, the Arapaho, they go out to meet the troops. Black Kettle raises an American flag, as he'd been instructed to, along with a white flag of truce. These chiefs are coming toward them, and the Company H soldiers begin firing. From the other side, the firing is totally unanticipated. Stands in the water, an elder chief. He's probably one of the first to be hit and is killed. White antelope is shot at. He is killed and falls into the creek bed and is later mutilated. Left hand is mortally wounded, and somehow he is carried away and dies about 3 days later.
As the villagers realized they were being attacked, they fled upstream toward several sand pits they tried to use for cover.
When Shivington and his command realizes that the village is evacuated, they order the artillery and move above the village, and what happens then is the unspeakable. And that's where the howitzers are brought up, and they use anti-personnel rounds to fire into these sand pits.
And so, I found myself within a few hundred yards of the likely spot in the sand pits where so much of the actual killing took place, at the hands of my ancestors' artillery unit.
Our best estimation right now is that there were about 200 Cheyennes and Arapahoes that were killed. About 50 of those were adult males, and about 150 were non-combatants. One soldier described it as a carnival of carnage.
Body parts were taken, scalps, women's private parts used as saddle horn covers and hat bands, minced genitalia used as tobacco pouches.
I never did find evidence that my great-great-grandfather participated in the atrocities against women and children that day, but that didn't make it any easier to contemplate speaking about the affair with Native Americans. I thought it would be awkward, to say the least. That's why I was so relieved to meet people like Henrietta Mann and Henry Littlebird at a commemoration ceremony for Sand Creek in Washington.
I learned the only way to heal is to live with it and don't hold grudges, because as long as you hold a grudge, the longer you're going to have to heal. So that's how we've been, we don't have so much animosity against the white people, because we want to heal.
Dr. Mann told me she's more concerned with the future than the past.
It is my responsibility to my grandchildren to see that this does not happen again, and that we live as respectful kinfolk within the sacred circle of life.